Beloved soul, there are moments in life when you meet someone for the very first time, yet your heart reacts as though it has known them for centuries. It may happen in a passing glance on a busy street, in a fleeting conversation with a stranger, or even in the quiet recognition of a child's eyes. Something stirs within, a warmth, a familiarity, a strange and undeniable sense of remembrance that defies logic. You may think to yourself, how can I know this person? Why does my spirit leap toward them while my mind insists we have never met? This is not imagination, nor mere coincidence. It is the whisper of your soul, gently revealing that not all connections begin in this lifetime. Paramahansa Yogananda, who saw far beyond the narrow lens of earthly experience, explained that we are not beings born once to vanish into nothingness. We are eternal travelers, souls who have walked through countless lifetimes, wearing many different forms, playing many roles in the great cosmic drama of existence. Through these journeys, we meet souls with whom we share deep karmic tie-some bonds of love and spiritual friendship, others born of lessons unlearned or debts unpaid. When such souls cross our path again, something far deeper than memory awakens, and we feel it instantly, even if we do not understand it with the rational mind. Beloved, this video will guide you into the hidden science of these strange recognitions. Together, we will explore how the soul carries memories beyond the body and brain, how karmic threads weave lifetimes into a tapestry of spiritual growth, and how meeting a soul from your past is never an accident but a divine appointment in your journey toward God. Listen with your heart as we walk through these truths, for they will not only explain the mysterious pull you feel towards certain people, but they will also help you understand how Spirit uses these meetings to awaken love, wisdom, and eventual freedom from the cycles of rebirth. Beloved soul, before we can truly understand the mysterious bond that draws souls together across lifetimes, we must first awaken to the eternal nature of who we truly are. You are not merely this body, born in a single moment of time, destined to perish after a brief span of years. You are not only the accumulation of your memories, habits, or even your current personality. You are the immortal spark of spirit, uncreated and undying, clothed temporarily in flesh and thought, so that you may learn, grow, and ultimately remember your oneness with God. Paramahansa Yogananda revealed that the journey of the soul is like attending a vast, cosmic school. Each lifetime is a classroom where divine lessons are taught, lessons of love, forgiveness, courage, humility, and devotion. When we graduate from one classroom, death comes as the closing of a chapter, but not the end of the story. We are guided gently to the next chapter, the next body, the next opportunity, to deepen our understanding and refine our consciousness until we reach the highest goal, liberation in God. Through these many lifetimes, we do not travel alone. Just as a student often studies with the same companions across years of schooling, so too do souls journey together, meeting and reuniting again and again. Sometimes we walk beside them as parents or children, sometimes as friends or rivals, sometimes as strangers who cross paths only briefly but leave an indelible mark upon each other's evolution. The law of karma, divine law of action and consequence, ensures that no meeting is random. Every bond we form, every act of kindness or harm, every promise fulfilled or broken, creates threads that weave us together beyond the limits of a single earthly life. When you meet someone in this lifetime and feel an instant, unexplainable connection, it is the silent memory of these shared journeys whispering to your soul. You have known this being before, in another time, perhaps in another land, under a different sun and sky. The love you once shared, or the lessons you left unfinished, calls you back to one another, not as punishment or chance, but as part of the divine plan that patiently works to guide every soul home to spirit. Beloved, let this truth awaken reverence in your heart. Every person you meet may carry the echo of a past chapter in your soul's eternal story. The strange feeling of recognition is not a dream, it is the music of divine memory playing softly in the background of your life, reminding you that nothing in God's universe is ever lost, and no true connection is ever forgotten. Beloved soul, when two beings have wandered together through multiple incarnations, their recognition of one another is not always through the outer senses. It is not the color of the eyes or the sound of the voice that first stirs your heart. It is something deeper, more mysterious, that awakens within you like a forgotten fragrance on the wind, or a melody from a song you once cherished, but cannot quite recall. When a soul from a past life stands before you in this present incarnation, there is often a stillness that comes over your spirit, a sacred pause in the current of time, as if eternity itself is reminding you, this one you have known before. This recognition may not come with memory, for the veil of forgetfulness is drawn across the soul at birth, so that we may engage in our lessons unburdened by the details of the past. Yet what is of the heart, what is of deep feeling, what is stamped upon the subtle fabric of your being, it remains, encoded in your spiritual vibration, awaiting the right moment to reawaken. You may feel it as an instant comfort in their presence, as if your soul can finally exhale. You may feel inexplicably drawn to them, without logic or reason, sensing that your destinies are interwoven like vines climbing the same tree of life. Sometimes, the recognition comes through the eyes, for the eyes are the windows of the soul. A glance exchanged across a room, a lingering look between strangers, can pierce through the illusion of time and space, opening a portal through which lifetimes rush back in silent remembrance. You may not know why you feel a sudden flood of trust, or why the pain of parting from them, even briefly, feels heavier than it should. These are not illusions, they are echoes of old bonds, old love, old karma, resonating in the present. Other times, the recognition comes through shared pattern synchronistic meetings, repeated dreams, an uncanny understanding between you that seems to require no explanation. Perhaps your paths crossed in a time of sorrow, and you feel the urge now to protect them. Or perhaps you left a lesson unfinished and are now given the grace to complete it. Often, there is a magnetic pull, a sense that your lives are meant to intersect in a meaningful way, though the form that takes may differ with each life. A soul that was once your parent may now return as your child, or a rival may return as a friend, offering both of you the chance to grow in wisdom and forgiveness. Beloved, when these signs stir within you, be still and listen. Let your heart open with humility and divine curiosity. Do not be quick to assume, for the ego can easily dress fantasy in the garments of spirituality. Instead, test the feeling through meditation and prayer. Ask God, is this soul one I have known before? Is there divine work for us to complete together? Let me not act from longing or fear, but from thy guidance alone. And in that stillness, the answer will come not as words, but as a peace, a recognition that surpasses thought. You will know them not by what they say or do, but by how your soul begins to remember its own eternal path, simply by walking beside them again. Beloved soul, as we continue to uncover this divine mystery of past life connections, we must acknowledge that these encounters are not always clothed in comfort or joy. Just as there are souls whose presence warms your heart instantly, there are also those whose energy unsettles you without reason, whose company feels strangely heavy, or whose very arrival stirs old patterns of conflict and resistance within. This, too, is part of the vast tapestry of your soul's journey, woven by the golden threads of karma and divine intention. When your spirit is drawn to a soul with effortless ease and profound harmony, it is often because love and spiritual friendship have long bound you together. Across past incarnations, you may have walked beside each other as teachers and students, friends and confidants, companions on the pilgrimage back to God. These bonds carry over as natural affection and intuitive trust in this lifetime. Such souls re-enter your life to remind you of virtues you once shared, to help you awaken quickly to divine truths, and to join with you again in fulfilling higher destinies left unfinished. Yet when you feel instinctively repelled or challenged by someone, do not be quick to think it mere chance or the fault of personality alone. More often than not, such unease is a karmic echo reverberating from unresolved interactions of the past. A soul who may have opposed you in a previous life, one with whom you shared pain or injustice, returns again not to wound you anew, but to offer you the sacred opportunity to heal what was once broken. Through forgiveness, understanding, and patient love, karmic debts are settled and old chains are dissolved, making way for spiritual freedom for both souls. Yogananda revealed that our karmic web is intricate and precise, divinely guided rather than random. The very souls we struggle most to love are sometimes those who have come closest to us before, carrying forward the unhealed patterns of many lifetimes. These encounters are not punishments. They are divine prescriptions meant to transform suffering into compassion and conflict into harmony. Each challenging relationship, is like a locked gate along your spiritual path, and the key to opening it lies in transcending ego, in blessing instead of blaming, in seeing the divine even in those who test you most severely. Beloved, this is why you cannot judge past life connections solely by how they make you feel in the moment. A soul that brings you comfort may be a kindred spirit returning to guide and uplift you. A soul that unsettles you may be the very companion with whom you are destined to forge new wisdom and peace. Both draw near because divine law has ordained it, calling you together across the boundaries of time to complete the eternal work of the soul's purification. When you meet such individuals, whether drawn or repelled, take refuge in stillness and prayer. Ask Spirit to reveal the deeper truth of your connection, not for curiosity's sake, but so that you may act with divine understanding. In doing so, you honor the sacred purpose of every reunion and allow God to transform even ancient shadows into radiant light on your shared journey home. Beloved soul, to fully grasp the mystery of meeting a soul from your past life, we must go beyond mere emotion and enter the spiritual science of recognition as revealed by the great masters of yoga. This recognition is not an illusion nor a fanciful idea. It is rooted in the divine laws that govern energy, consciousness, and the eternal connection between souls. Every human being is surrounded by a subtle energy field known as the astral body. This luminous sheath carries the vibrations of your thoughts, desires, actions, and the essence of all your past experiences. Though your physical memory may forget the faces and events of past incarnations, the astral body retains every impression like grooves carved into a record. These vibrational imprints resonate across lifetimes, silently drawing souls back to one another when the moment is ripe for spiritual progress. When you meet someone from your past, your astral energies recognize one another instantly. This recognition bypasses the rational mind, manifesting instead as intuition, a sudden sense of familiarity, a wave of comfort, or, at times, a stirring of old pain seeking resolution. Yogananda explained that this is why saints and masters can look into the eyes of a stranger and say, "I have known you before." They are not relying on memory as we know it. They are perceiving the soul's vibration directly, unhindered by the veils of time. The eyes, beloved, are often the first bridge of this recognition. They are not merely organs of sight, they are gateways to the soul. When two souls meet who have walked together before, the energy in their gaze resonates like two tuning forks, humming in perfect harmony. A single glance may stir emotions that no words can explain, as if an unspoken language of spirit is suddenly remembered. Beyond the eyes, the voice can also awaken memory. The soul's vibration shapes the tone of your speech, and even when born into a new body, with a different name and background, the subtle resonance of your essence can echo across lifetimes. Sometimes, hearing someone's voice feels like hearing a familiar melody you cannot place but instantly trust. This recognition, however, is not meant to indulge curiosity or romantic fantasies. It is a divine signal, alerting you to a spiritual opportunity, a chance to uplift one another, to resolve unfinished karmic ties, to rediscover divine friendship, and to walk together again toward the light of self-realization. Beloved, understanding this spiritual science changes how we meet others. It teaches us to look beyond appearances, beyond first impressions, and to feel with the quiet intuition of the heart. When you next encounter that strange, unexplainable familiarity in another soul, pause and enter stillness. Lift your inner gaze to God and ask, what divine lesson or blessing does this reunion hold for us both? In that moment of prayerful openness, the deeper truth of your connection may be revealed not in words, but in a silent recognition that resonates like the eternal music of the soul. Beloved soul, when two souls who have journeyed together before meet again in a new lifetime, it is never a casual encounter. The invisible threads of karma and divine intention weave these reunions with precision, for spirit never wastes a meeting. Whether such a soul returns as your parent, child, dear friend, or even a stranger who suddenly changes the course of your life, this reunion is part of a celestial choreography designed to awaken, heal, and elevate both souls. When souls recognize one another, even without knowing why, there is often an immediate sense of easy peace that bypasses spoken language. Conversation feels like remembering rather than learning. and moments together hold a richness of meaning that feels far greater than the brief time you may have known each other in this life. This familiarity is not fantasy. It is the soul softly remembering ancient companionship, the silent testimony of journeys walked together through many paths and bodies. Sometimes, these reunions are for joy and shared progress. Old spiritual friends meet again to continue the work they began long ago, to serve, to teach, to inspire, to support each other's upward climb toward divine realization. These souls often feel as though they can see one another's inner light clearly, and together they naturally create conditions of peace and inspiration. Meeting such a soul can feel like finding a missing piece of yourself, because spiritually, you have lifted one another many times before. But beloved, not all reunions arrive clothed in joy. At times, souls meet again because of unresolved pain or unfinished duties carried over from past incarnations. In these cases, the meeting may stir old fears, guilt, or even animosity. You may not understand why certain feelings surface or why tensions arise quickly, but this too is a divine opportunity. The karmic knot tied long ago is now presented again for untangling. Through forgiveness, compassion, and conscious spiritual effort, what once bound you in suffering can be transformed into freedom and understanding. Paramahansa Yogananda revealed that many of our most intense relationships, whether harmonious or challenging, are simply souls coming together again to complete lessons of love and harmony they once resisted. Even those who test our patience or cause pain are sometimes beloved companions from lifetimes past, returning in new forms to offer both themselves and us the chance to evolve. When such a soul enters your life, try not to cling in attachment nor push away in fear. Enter prayerful reflection and ask Spirit, what divine purpose does this meeting hold for us? What lesson of love are we meant to fulfill together? With this higher awareness, every reunion, whether sweet or painful, becomes a stepping stone toward liberation, a sacred opportunity for both souls to journey closer to the eternal home in God's embrace. Beloved soul, it is comforting to think of past life connections as bonds of deep friendship or divine companionship. Yet the full truth of karma is broader and more profound. Just as you may encounter kindred spirits who uplift you with joy and harmony, you may also meet souls with whom you once shared conflict, pain, or injustice. These meetings may feel unsettling, as though a hidden tension or inexplicable resistance lies beneath your interactions. But know this, even these encounters are woven by divine wisdom, offering you a chance to break free from chains forged long ago. In a past life, you and another soul may have been locked in a cycle of mistrust or rivalry. Harsh words may have been exchanged, betrayals may have occurred, or great harm may have been done, leaving karmic scars that cannot heal fully within the span of a single lifetime. The law of divine justice, perfectly balanced and infused with mercy, brings you together again so that the unfinished work of forgiveness and reconciliation can finally be completed. When such a reunion happens, the mind may react strongly, not understanding why discomfort arises so swiftly or why negative feelings persist despite outward civility. Often, the ego sees only the surface of the relationship, labeling it as difficult or undesirable. Yet beneath these waves of emotion, the soul recognizes a deeper truth. Here is someone with whom I am bound by old karma. Here is my opportunity to forgive, to love, to break the cycle that has bound us through ages. Paramahansa Yogananda explained that we are drawn repeatedly into relationships that mirror our past tendencies not as punishment but as divine lessons. Until we learn to respond with understanding, compassion, and divine love, we must face these challenges again and again. Meeting a past life enemy is therefore not misfortune. It is grace disguised, a sacred opportunity to release the energy of anger, hatred, and resentment that has weighed on both souls for lifetimes. Beloved, when you encounter such tension, resist the impulse to escape or retaliate. Instead, turn inward in meditation and prayer. Lift the soul of the other person up to God's light and silently affirm, Divine Spirit, let thy forgiveness and understanding flow through me. May this soul and I both be freed from past shadows and awakened to thy eternal love. Over time, you may witness what once felt heavy and bitter, transforming into an unexpected sense of compassion and peace. This is the miracle of divine grace. Even enmity can become spiritual friendship when the soul chooses forgiveness over revenge and love over fear. Each time you meet a past life enemy and respond with kindness, you dissolve lifetimes of karmic burden, not only for yourself but also for the other soul who has been tied to you through suffering. In this way, even these challenging reunions become luminous milestones on the journey back to divine freedom. Beloved soul, now that you understand how divine law reunites you not only with friends from past incarnations, but also with those who once stood in opposition, let us open our hearts to the most sacred truth of all. The highest reason you meet a soul from your past life is not simply to rekindle love or repay a karmic debt, but to help one another awaken. Every soul you meet, whether they bring joy or sorrow, is ultimately a messenger sent by God, carrying in their presence a hidden invitation to remembrance, a mirror that reflects something your soul is ready to learn, transcend, or reclaim on the path to divine realization. The most profound soul reunions are not meant to bind you in earthly emotion, but to stir in you the memory of who you truly are, a child of the infinite, clothed for a time in human experience. Some souls come into your life again and again, like guiding stars, spiritual companions, who have vowed, across lifetimes, to help each other ascend. These are the ones whose eyes you look into and feel an ancient calm, who, with a single word or act of kindness, unlock strength you had forgotten, wisdom you did not know you carried. Their mission is not to give you something from the outside, but to help you awaken what lies dormant within your soul. Yogananda often taught that behind every connection lies a spiritual purpose. What may appear to be a chance meeting or a fleeting relationship could be a divine appointment made before either of you were born into this world. Perhaps you promised one another in the astral realms, "When we meet again, remind me. Remind me of God." And so, a stranger becomes a teacher, a friend becomes a spiritual catalyst, a child becomes your guru in disguise. These are not roles determined by the intellect or society. They are assignments chosen by the soul under the compassionate guidance of divine law. The purpose, dear one, is growth, not merely emotional comfort or worldly harmony. This is why some soul reunions feel sweet and serene, while others shake the very foundation of your being. Both are necessary. The joy awakens gratitude and devotion. The sorrow dissolves ego and awakens humility. The harmony affirms your progress. The challenge purifies your attachments. Every meeting, every reunion is designed with precision by the all-knowing love of spirit to bring your soul closer to its true home. And so, beloved, when you feel that inexplicable connection with another, whether it inspires love or provokes discomfort, pause and pray, "Divine Spirit, help me see beyond appearances. Show me the lesson, the blessing, the divine purpose of this reunion." When you offer each soul meeting back to God in this way, your life becomes not a series of random encounters, but a sacred journey guided by unseen hands, filled with divine appointments and holy recognitions that lead you, step by step, back to the joy of your eternal self. Beloved soul, as the soul journeys through lifetimes, carrying with it the memory of countless experiences, it often seeks ways to remind you of these past connections, even while you walk the earth clothed in a new body and personality. Because the conscious mind is veiled by the forgetfulness of birth, these reminders do not always come in the form of clear recollection. Instead, they arrive as subtle signals, quiet murmurings of intuition, dreams that feel more real than waking life, and moments of déjà vu that stir your spirit with wonder and awe. Paramahansa Yogananda explained that dreams are not always the random play of the subconscious mind, as many believe. In truth, during sleep, the soul partly withdraws from the body and returns to the subtler astral realm, the same dimension it inhabits between incarnations. In this state, it is free from the rigid filters of physical perception, allowing it to commune more easily with souls it has known before. This is why, in dreams, you may see a face that feels profoundly familiar, though you have never met them in this life. It is why you may find yourself visiting places or reliving scenes that do not belong to your current earthly story. These are not meaningless visions, they are glimpses of the past breaking through the veil of time, tender reminders of bonds that transcend a single incarnation. Déjà vu works in a similar way. Have you ever stepped into a city, a home, or even a moment, and felt an overwhelming sense that you have been there before? The rational mind searches for explanations but cannot account for the depth of familiarity. This is the soul whispering, yes, we have walked here, lived here, loved here before. The environment, the people, or the circumstances carry vibrational imprints that resonate with your astral memory, triggering a sudden recognition. Beloved, these whispers of the past are not meant to confuse you or lead you astray. They are gentle nudges from spirit, invitations to pause and remember that your life is not a straight line beginning at birth and ending at death. It is a spiral, a divine tapestry, in which every thread of experience is woven with purpose. Dreams and déjà vu remind you that the souls you meet, the paths you walk, and even the challenges you face are part of a grander story unfolding beyond the reach of the intellect. When these experiences arise, do not dismiss them as coincidence or imagination. Instead, offer them to God in silent prayer. Beloved Spirit, if this is a sign of my eternal journey, guide me to understand its meaning. Let this remembrance help me love more deeply, forgive more fully, and awaken more completely to thy presence within all souls. Through this reverence, you transform fleeting moments of recognition into stepping stones on the sacred road back to divine awareness. Beloved soul, as the soul journeys through lifetimes, carrying with it the memory of countless experiences, it often seeks ways to remind you of these past connections, even while you walk the earth clothed in a new body and personality. Because the conscious mind is veiled by the forgetfulness of birth, these reminders do not always come in the form of clear recollection. Instead, they arrive as subtle signals, quiet murmurings of intuition, dreams that feel more real than waking life, and moments of déjà vu that stir your spirit with wonder and awe. Paramahansa Yogananda explained that dreams are not always the random play of the subconscious mind as many believe. In truth, during sleep, the soul partly withdraws from the body and returns to the subtler astral realm, the same dimension it inhabits between incarnations. In this state, it is free from the rigid filters of physical perception, allowing it to commune more easily with souls it has known before. This is why, in dreams, you may see a face that feels profoundly familiar though you have never met them in this life. It is why you may find yourself visiting places or reliving scenes that do not belong to your current earthly story. These are not meaningless visions, they are glimpses of the past breaking through the veil of time, tender reminders of bonds that transcend a single incarnation. Déjà vu works in a similar way. Have you ever stepped into a city, a home, or even a moment, and felt an overwhelming sense that you have been there before? The rational mind searches for explanations, but cannot account for the depth of familiarity. This is the soul whispering, yes, we have walked here, lived here, loved here before. The environment, the people, or the circumstances carry vibrational imprints that resonate with your astral memory, triggering a sudden recognition. Beloved, these whispers of the past are not meant to confuse you or lead you astray. They are gentle nudges from spirit, invitations to pause and remember that your life is not a straight line, beginning at birth and ending at death. It is a spiral, a divine tapestry, in which every thread of experience is woven with purpose. Dreams and déjà vu remind you that the souls you meet, the paths you walk, and even the challenges you face are part of a grander story unfolding beyond the reach of the intellect. When these experiences arise, do not dismiss them as coincidence or imagination. Instead, offer them to God in silent prayer. Beloved Spirit, if this is a sign of my eternal journey, guide me to understand its meaning. Let this remembrance help me love more deeply, forgive more fully, and awaken more completely to thy presence within all souls. Through this reverence, you transform fleeting moments of recognition into stepping stones on the sacred road back to divine awareness. Beloved soul, now that you have glimpsed the divine mystery of past life connections, felt the whisper of intuition that stirs when familiar souls return, and understood how dreams, déjà vu, and meditation can awaken remembrance, you may ask, what should I do when I meet such a soul in this life? How should I act when destiny places them before me again? The first step, beloved, is to pause and enter inner stillness. Do not rush to label the connection or let the mind weave stories around it. Instead, lift your gaze inwardly to God and silently ask, Beloved Spirit, what is the divine purpose of this reunion? What lesson, what love, what unfinished thread is being woven again through this meeting? In this prayerful openness, divine intuition will guide you more surely than reason or emotion ever could. If the reunion brings joy, cherish it as a gift from God. Let it deepen your gratitude and devotion, knowing that this soul has walked beside you before and now returns to help you climb higher together. Treat the bond as sacred, not for personal clinging but for mutual upliftment. Share wisdom, encourage one another's spiritual growth, and serve as mirrors reminding each other of the eternal self beyond fleeting forms. If the meeting stirs pain or conflict, remember that this too is grace. Old wounds that remain hidden cannot be healed. Karma left unresolved cannot dissolve. When past life challenges resurface, respond not with fear or defensiveness, but with the higher understanding that you have been given a chance to forgive, to release chains that may have bound your souls for centuries. Offer silent blessings to the other person, even if outward reconciliation seems impossible. Each prayer, each act of compassion, frees both of you from the weight of old shadows. Above all, approach every reunion with divine detachment. Do not become entangled in longing or obsession, for the soul's eternal purpose is not to repeat old dramas but to transcend them. Paramahansa Yogananda taught that true spiritual friendship exists only when two souls walk side by side toward God. If a soul returns to you in this lifetime, let your highest aim be to lift each other into the light of spirit, where no separation can ever again exist. Beloved, let us close with a silent affirmation. Place your hand gently over your heart, take a slow, deep breath and inwardly whisper, "Eternal Spirit, guide me to see every soul as thy own reflection. If old companions return to me, let me greet them with love and wisdom. If old enemies appear, let forgiveness flow through me like divine light. Through every meeting, let me rise beyond the past and awaken with all souls in thy everlasting joy." In this stillness, feel the invisible threads of karma gently loosening. Sense divine grace flowing through your heart, blessing not only your present life but every connection your soul has ever known. Know with certainty that each reunion is divinely timed, each meeting is holy, and all souls, whether friend or foe, are destined to journey together toward the final and eternal reunion with God. Each morning when you awaken and find the sunlight gently painting the sky, do you pause to remember who gave it to you? Do you sit for even a moment with the invisible presence that breathed life into your body through the night and into this new day? I ask you this not to invoke guilt, but to remind you that your soul longs for something deeper than schedules, news, and the constant mental chatter that invades the sacred temple of your morning consciousness. You are not truly longing for more time, more answers, or even more happiness. You are longing for God. You are longing to feel Him not once a year in a church, not once a week in meditation, but now, here, in this breath, in this moment where He waits in silence for you to remember Him again. The greatest sorrow of man is not death or failure or even suffering, it is the unspoken ache of separation from the divine. And yet, how can you be separate from that which made you? How can the wave be separate from the sea? It is not God who has hidden Himself. It is your own restlessness, your own over-identification with outer experiences, that has dimmed your inner sight. God is always present, closer than breath, nearer than heartbeat, but like the sun behind drifting clouds, He remains unseen to the eye that is distracted by the illusions of the passing world. If your life feels hollow, if your peace feels fleeting, it is not because God is absent, it is because your attention has strayed. The lamp of the soul is always burning, but you have turned your face toward the shadows on the wall. The solution is not in doing more, acquiring more, or even thinking more, is in returning to the still center where God has always been. That is why I say to you now, if you would feel God in every moment, you must first stop trying to find Him with the mind, and instead allow your soul to remember Him through devotion, through breath, through presence. God is the eternal now. He does not arrive later, nor did He slip away before. He is here, but your awareness is often elsewhere. That is why, my beloved, we must build a daily practice not to bring God to us, but to bring us back to God. Let us begin this sacred return together, step by step, not as a ritual of obligation, but as a path of divine romance. You may walk the same streets, speak the same words, and fulfill the same duties, but you shall do them not as one lost in forgetfulness, but as one who walks with the beloved. Come, I will show you how to feel God not someday, not only in meditation, but right now, in this moment, and in the next, and in the one after that, until your whole life becomes a living temple, where the divine presence is not merely believed, but felt like light behind the eyes, like stillness within the breath, like sweetness rising from the core of your being. You must understand, deeply and irrevocably, that the presence of God is not something to be summoned like a faraway king who must be petitioned through elaborate ritual or earned through perfection of conduct or memorization of sacred verse, but rather, it is the fundamental essence of your own being, the ever-existent backdrop behind every breath you take, the silent witness behind every thought, every movement, every sorrow, and every joy. Presence that has never been absent, though you have wandered far in thought, in fear, in distraction, and in the dream play of Maya that draws the attention outward into the impermanent theater of forms. God is not found in the ticking of time, nor in the destinations of future hopes or the ruins of past regrets. He is not hiding behind the stars or confined to holy buildings made of stone, but lives in the cathedral of your consciousness, in the breath that rises without your command, in the quiet current that runs through your spine, in the gentle awareness behind your seeing eyes, presence that cannot be added to, only remembered. That is why I say, God is not a distant presence to be earned or acquired, but the very substance of your nowness, the vibration of spirit that underlies this in every moment, waiting not for worthiness, but for attention, waiting not to be called down from the heavens, but to be uncovered in the stillness that already resides in the temple of your soul. The mind, ever busy, believes it must journey outward to locate God, as though he were a treasure buried beneath layers of action and analysis, as though he existed only in flashes of ecstasy or dramatic revelation. But I tell you, he is here, now, always. And the only distance between you and that eternal presence is the interference of thought, the restless forgetting of the mind that clings to identity, to preference, to fear, and fails to see that beneath the wave of self is the ocean of spirit. God is the background silence behind every sound, the eternal witness behind every changing experience. And it is not he who hides, but you who, in turning toward the noise, miss the song that never ceases. Breathe with me now, slowly and gently, and as you inhale, say within yourself, God is now, and as you exhale, whisper to your heart, I am here. Let your breath become a prayer that draws your awareness back to the center, that lifts the veil between you and the presence that was never gone. This is not imagination, it is revelation. This is not fantasy, it is remembrance. Do not seek some thunderous voice or vision to prove that God is with you. Instead, close your eyes and feel the warmth behind your chest, the tingling at the brow, the invisible current of joy that needs no name, that is Him. The scriptures of East and West have always spoken the same truth. Lo, I am with you always, said the Christ. The Lord dwells in the hearts of all beings, declares the Gita. But the question is not whether God is near. Question is, will you attune your attention? Will you still your breath? Will you clear the glass through which you peer into the mirror of divine presence and finally see not a distant deity, but the eternal friend who is waiting behind your every breath, the light that lives behind your every thought, the beloved that sings beneath the surface of every moment? Let us continue, and I will show you how to make your morning not a rush into the world, but a sacred unveiling of God who walks beside you, who lives within you, who breathes your breath and waits to be known again, not someday, but this very day. When you open your eyes each morning, do not immediately fling your awareness into the chaos of the day. Do not reach for the machine that glows with the world's noise and schedules and endless distractions, but instead let your very first act be a holy act, a moment of sacred remembering, a whisper of your soul to the infinite saying, Beloved, I have not forgotten you. And in that remembrance, before even your feet touch the floor, sit upright in your bed with your spine aligned like a golden rod channeling the divine current upward toward the heavens, and let your hands rest softly on your lap or heart, and let your breath rise not with anxiety, but with reverence, and let the eyes close gently, turning inward from the sensory drama of the world and focusing tenderly at the point between the eyebrows, the spiritual eye, the sacred doorway through which the soul communes with the one who is always near. In this holy moment of waking, say to the infinite silently or aloud, Reveal thyself in this new day, not as a demand, not as a plea of desperation, but as a quiet invitation, a loving beckoning of the soul to the beloved, a gentle lifting of the veil that habit places over the divine, and then simply sits it not with expectation, but with reverence, not waiting for a sign, but opening to a presence, not seeking sensation, but surrendering into awareness. For it is in that receptive stillness that God, who needs no words, begins to stir within your heart, like the warmth of an unseen sun rising behind your chest. This is the practice I give you to begin each day, not with your thoughts racing toward tasks and fears, but with your heart resting in God. For if you learn to start the day from that center, you will carry that presence like a fragrance through every hour, through every conversation, through every joy and every trial. And you will begin to notice that even when the noise of life grows loud, there is a silent song still singing within you, and that song is God. Now, in this stillness, let your gaze remain gently lifted to the spiritual eye, not straining, not forcing, but lightly. As a flower turns toward the sunand, feel your breath as a sacred wind, entering and leaving the temple of your body without effort. And as you inhale, silently affirm, I awake in God. And as you exhale, say within, this day is God's. And if you repeat this 3 times with concentration and love, you will feel something stirring it outside of you, but within, a subtle expansion, a deepening of peace, a presence that needs no proof, because it is self-evident, self-existing, self-aware. Do not think of this as meditation in the formal sense, though it may grow into that, but think of it as greeting the infinite, as placing your awareness in the arms of your Divine Mother before you place your feet upon the ground of this fleeting world. And when at last you do rise, do so not with the burden of being a separate self marching into duty, but with the quiet joy of a soul who knows that no step is taken alone, that every breath is shared, and that God walks with you now, not in concept, but in conscious companionship. Let me now show you how to breathe in that presence with sacred rhythm, how to draw the formless spirit into form, through breath, through mantra, through the temple of your own awareness. Shall I continue? Now that the stillness of divine remembrance has gently opened the gateway of your soul at the dawn of the day, let us breathe not as the body breathes, automatically and unconsciously, but as the soul breathes when it remembers that each inhalation is a prayer and each exhalation a surrender. For breath is the sacred bridge between the visible and the invisible, the movement of spirit through flesh, the silent messenger that carries the soul's longing upward toward its source. And when you learn to breathe with reverence, with rhythm, with conscious stillness, you are no longer just inhaling air, you are drawing divine intelligence into your body, awakening dormant memory, and reuniting your scattered awareness into one luminous flame that rises toward God. Sit now, wherever you are, not with stiffness or strain, but with quiet dignity, with your spine erect like the staff of a high priest, crowned with the gaze uplifted to the spiritual eye, not with tension, but with tenderness, as though you are looking upon the doorway of your eternal home, and begin to breathe in the sacred rhythm I give to you, a rhythm not invented but revealed through inner communion. Inhale slowly, to the count of 6, not counting, with the mind's rigidity but with the heart's gentleness. Hold the breath for 6 counts in stillness, allowing that divine current to rise through the spine like golden light traveling a luminous ladder. Then exhale to the count of 6, feeling all that is restless or fragmented melt away into the vast silence. And finally pause in that stillness for another 6 counts, not as emptiness, but as fullness beyond form, as the womb of spirit where no thought intrudes and only God remains. Do this cycle 3 times, and as you inhale, let your mind be filled with the silent vibration of the mantra Aum, not chanted aloud but felt within, a soundless sound echoing in the temple of the inner ear. And as you hold the breath, imagine that Aum flowing upward from the base of the spine to the point between the eyebrows, carrying your soul with it like a pilgrim ascending to a sacred shrine. And as you exhale, let that divine vibration ripple through your body, cleansing, harmonizing, anointing every cell, until all of you vibrates in silent unison with that eternal word that was with God and is God. This is not mere breathing, it is communion, it is offering, it is return. And when you begin your day with this breath, you begin it not as a separate being tossed by karma, by moods, by the opinions of others, but as a soul seated in its center, attuned to the one presence that never changes, never leaves, never sleeps. And you will find that even as the day unfolds with its countless interactions, a part of you remains untouched, anchored, humming quietly with the vibration of Aum, because you have tuned your inner radio to the frequency of the divine, and that station plays not news or fear or noise, but peace, joy, guidance, and above all companionship. You may practice this for 5 minutes or for 1. What matters is not the duration, but the devotion, not the precision of the count, but the sincerity of the offering. And I promise you, if you give yourself to this breath each morning, not as duty, but as love, you will begin to notice that God no longer feels distant, but near, not hidden, but silently shining through all things, especially through you, and your very breath will become a chariot that returns you again and again to His presence. Shall I now take you deeper into how to walk through the day with this remembrance alive in your every step, in your gaze, in your gestures, so that even the mundane becomes the miraculous and the ordinary becomes an altar? Let me continue, if you are ready. And now, beloved soul, having touched the stillness at dawn and breathed the divine name into the corridors of your being, you are ready to carry that vibration into the living current of the day, not by clinging to silence and resistance to life, but by turning every moment into a prayer, every action into an altar, every breath into a sacred, remembering that God is not only in the temple or the sunrise or the song, but is in your hands as they work, in your eyes as they see, in your ears as they listen, in your feet as they walk, not as something you must search for, but as the very presence that is already there, veiled only by your forgetfulness, never by His absence. And so I say, walk with sacred attention. Attention, when purified of restlessness, becomes devotion. And devotion, when practiced in daily life, becomes presence. And presence is the lamp that reveals God in all things. So begin now, not with grand efforts or impossible goals, but with small remembrances repeated often, like beads on a rosary of hours strung together by the golden thread of awareness, so that whether you are washing your hands, tying your shoes, speaking to a friend, or walking down the street, you say inwardly, not aloud but in the temple of your heart, God, you are here. And with that one phrase, you turn the profane into the sacred, the forgotten into the remembered, and you align your outer life with the silent stream of divine vibration that runs beneath the surface of all activity. This is not imagination. It is realization. For the moment you say with sincerity, God is in this moment, the veil begins to lift, and what seemed ordinary becomes luminous, what seems separate becomes unified, and you no longer feel alone, because your soul begins to feel the nearness of the one who is always near. And soon, this becomes your spiritual habit, your invisible practice, and it matters not whether you are doing spiritual work or worldly work, because all work done with sacred attention becomes spiritualized. And every task, no matter how mundane, becomes holy when offered in presence and performed with awareness of God. So I invite you, whenever you remember, to whisper inwardly, this moment is holy. Even if you are doing something repetitive, even if your mind resists, even if your mood is low, especially then, for that is when the practice becomes most powerful, most transformative, most like love. Because love does not wait for beauty to be present. It brings beauty to wherever it is directed. And when you offer attention to God in the middle of a dishwashing moment, or a traffic jam, or a quiet sigh in the middle of your workday, you are offering your heart at the feet of the divine without fanfare, without audience, and yet the heavens take note. For the soul grows more through sincere attention than through the loudest declarations or the grandest gestures. Scripture says, in Him we live and move and have our being, but how often do we truly feel that to be true? You can begin now, not tomorrow, not when you are more holy, not when you have more time, but now. In the midst of your ordinary day, you can begin to walk with God not by reaching for Him as if He were elsewhere, but by letting your awareness fall back into the now, by returning again and again to the truth that He is closer than your breath, nearer than your thoughts, more constant than the rhythm of your heart. And all you must do is look, not with your eyes, but with the inward gaze of love. Shall I now guide you into how to pause, even briefly, in the middle of your day, not as escape, but as return, so that the current of sacred attention becomes not a morning spark but a midday flame? Let us continue. Now, my dear one, let us walk more deeply into the midday hours, when the clamor of the world has risen around you, when responsibilities tug at your garment of peace, and the early morning stillness you once held so tenderly has slipped behind the veil of motion, conversation, noise, and thought, and it is here, precisely here in the bright press of ordinary life, that the sacred art of returning becomes your golden thread back to divine intimacy. For while the mind believes that God is found only in silence or sanctuary, the awakened soul knows that even amidst the clamor, even within the market, even beneath the sound of a ringing phone or a closing door, there is a presence more silent than the noise and more constant than your shifting focus. And that presence is not asking for perfection, but remembrance. And so I tell you, do not wait for the day to slow down before you return to God. Instead, make the return your act of devotion in the very midst of your busyness, like a lover who glances at a hidden letter in the pocket between meetings, like a musician who hums the sacred melody under his breath, even while carrying water. For just as the flower does not ask the sun's permission to turn toward the light, your soul need not wait for the world to give you peace before you reclaim it by pausing, even for a few seconds, to say, "Beloved, I have not forgotten." And in that pause, in that still moment between breaths, heaven rushes in like a tide that never stopped rising. Take this simple practice with you, once at midday or twice, or 3 times if the heart stirs. Stop, even for just a breath, and place your hand upon your heart, not as gesture but as remembrance. For within your heart lies the silent altar where the flame of God is always burned. And as you close your eyes, even if for 10 seconds, let the external world fall away like a discarded garment. And in that small gesture, the eternal temple opens again, and your breath becomes the incense rising, and the mantra within you begins to whisper, "This moment is holy. I am not alone. God, you are here." And you may weep, or you may smile, or you may feel nothing at all, but the act is the prayer, and your willingness is the offering. And even if the emotions do not stir, the soul rejoices in your return, for you are touching the hem of God's robe in the crowd of life. And in that instant, something shifts not outwardly, but inwardly, and you begin to feel what no sense can grasp and no word can capture. The divine nearness that was never far, the silence that was never absent, the sweetness that lives underneath all form and motion. This, beloved, is how you weave the invisible into the visible, not by escaping life, but by infusing it with awareness, not by running away from noise, but by planting stillness in the center of sound, not by waiting for peace, but by choosing to be the one who pauses, remembers, breathes, and returns again and again to the presence that is always here, waiting behind the veil of your attention. Shall I guide you now into the sacred closing of the day, the hour when the body begins to quiet, when the mind releases its grip, and the soul, if invited, may rise like a gentle prayer into the arms of the beloved who never sleeps? Let us continue. And now, as the sun sinks beneath the horizon and the rhythms of the outer world begin to slow, I call you, my beloved, into a sacred rite that is older than Scripture and more intimate than any sermon, a ritual not of words but of watching, not of doctrine but of remembrance. For before you surrender to the mystery of sleep, when the body yields to stillness and the breath prepares to slip into its nighttime rhythm, there opens a most precious window, a final hour of return, a last moment of conscious reunion with the eternal before you sail the quiet seas of dream. And it is here that the soul whispers, "Let me look upon this day with God's eyes." Do not let the day pass like a stone thrown into the well of forgetfulness. No, take it back into your hands, like a string of sacred pearls, and observe it with the still gaze of the soul, not to judge, not to mourn, not to analyze, but to see where the light of God flickered in your awareness and where the fog of forgetfulness crept in unseen. Trace your steps not forward but backward, from this moment of quiet reclining to the laughter you shared, the work you completed, the conversations spoken, the thoughts that rose and passed, the glances you gave to others, the breath you may not have noticed, and with each recollection, whisper gently within, "Was I walking with thee then, or did I walk alone, lost in the noise of the world?" This is the nightly soul review, not a ritual of punishment, but a sacred mirror for the divine gaze to fall gently upon the landscape of your day, illuminating not your mistakes, but your moments of amnesia, and more so, your quiet victories, your breath-born prayers, the times you chose patience over reaction, the seconds you remembered to say thank you, the glance you lifted toward the spiritual eye when no one saw. And in these, the soul rejoices, for they are the golden threads that stitch together the unseen garment of your awakening. And it matters not how much you stumbled, but that now, in this quiet hour, you choose to see, you choose to return, you choose to say, even now I come back to thee. And do not worry if you do not remember every detail, for even your willingness to look is a light that heals. And if you feel pain, guilt, or sorrow over moments when God was forgotten, bring even that into your silent prayer. For the divine is not a stern judge waiting to scold the forgetful, but a loving mother who rejoices each time her child remembers to call her name. And if tears come, let them wash you clean. And if silence comes, let it hold you. And if only weariness remains, let that too be your offering. So before sleep claims your body, sit or lie quietly with closed eyes and a heart wide open, and mentally move through the day in reverse from evening to morning, like rewinding the film of your life. And as each scene plays in your mind's eye, let it dissolve into light, into blessing, into offering, until the whole day is no longer a story of doing or forgetting, but a temple you entered and exited, and you say not, what did I accomplish? But rather, where did I walk with God? Where did I leave him outside the door? And where even now can I return? And when this sacred review has quieted your mind and stilled your heart, whisper to the infinite in whatever words arise from the well of your devotion. Beloved, take this day. I place it in thy hands. Let its moments become incense in thy temple. Let my stumblings become steps. Let my forgetfulness become fuel for deeper longing. Let all I was today lead me back to what I eternally am in thee. This is the holy preparation of the soul before it sleeps, not the noise of scrolling, not the heaviness of regret, but the soft returning of your gaze to the face that never turned away. And as you close your eyes, know this: you do not fall into unconsciousness, but into the arms of the one who was awake in you all along. And as the body sleeps, the soul may rise to the throne of God, carrying in its hands the golden harvest of a single day remembered in love. Shall we now conclude this sacred night with a final prayer of surrender? Let us. And now, my beloved, as the final embers of the day's fire grow dim, and the hush of night begins to soften the edges of all things, come, lie gently in the lap of the infinite, not as one who retreats from the world, but as one who returns to the secret sanctuary of the soul's eternal dwelling. And here, in this inward temple that requires no walls, no chants, no candles, only your pure attention and silent love, I invite you to enter the last act of holy surrender, not as a performance, not as duty, but as a divine romance, a soul offering of your entire being into the waiting arms of Spirit, who has watched every breath you took, who walked invisibly beside every step you made, who wept when you forgot, and rejoiced each time you remembered that you were never alone. Let your prayer be without strain, for the infinite responds not to volume, but to vibration, not to cleverness, but to sincerity. And if no words come, then be still and feel. And if no feelings come, then breathe and wait. And if waiting feels empty, then offer even the emptiness itself. For God listens beneath the surface of language, beneath the structure of thought, beneath even the emotion, and receives most fully the raw and honest essence of your offering. So speak, if you must, from the heart, perhaps saying, Divine Mother, this day I give to thee, not because it was perfect, but because it was meant, and what is mine I place in thine arms now. Take it, make of it a garland of learning and devotion, that tomorrow I may walk more awake in thy presence. As you lie down, let your spine lengthen gently, your body soften like petals closing at dusk, and your breath slow into a rhythm of surrender. And then quietly, silently, sweetly draw your inner gaze upward, to that sacred point between the eyebrows, the divine eye through which the soul sees the beloved, the hidden door through which Spirit enters the temple of your being, and rest your awareness there, not forcefully but faithfully, like a child gazing into the face of the mother he has finally found. And as the breath flows in, Feel peace descending from that point, like a silver stream bathing your chest, your belly, your limbs. And as the breath flows out, release every thought, every worry, every memory of the day, as if you were exhaling clouds to reveal the eternal sky of God's presence. Let this sacred breath become your lullaby. Inhale peace from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. Feel that peace ripple through every cell like moonlight on water. And as you exhale, say inwardly, I release, I surrender, I return. And if drowsiness comes, do not resist it, let it be the curtain falling on the stage of the day. For you have already offered the play to the director, and the final act is his to write. And as your body falls asleep, let your soul remain gazing, even slightly, even dimly, toward the light, toward the giver of all dreams, the author of this life, the one whose love sleeps not, and whose nearness knows no distance. If fears arise, say gently within, Thou art my refuge. Even now I rest in thee. If regrets appear, reply within, All is forgiven, all is past. I dwell in the eternal now. And if joy flows like a stream, then drink of it silently and let it carry you into the breathless garden where the divine walks with the soul under the stars of eternity. This, dear one, is not the end of your day. It is the gateway to the night vigil of spirit within you, who never ceases to call, who never ceases to wait, who now wraps you in the light of remembrance and whispers through the corridors of your sleep, You are mine. Even in dreams, you are not separate. You are mine. Shall we now shine a light upon the hidden barriers, the subtle shadows that sometimes block this feeling of God's presence, so that you may learn how to remove them and return again and again to this holy nearness? Let us. And now, O soul who longs to live with God as breath lives with wind and light lives with flame, let me speak gently to the part of you that wonders why, despite the prayers you've whispered, the breaths you've watched, the scriptures you've read, the silence you've kept, there are still moments, hours, even days when the presence of the divine feels distant, when your chest feels hollow and your thoughts run dry, and the warm feeling of God's nearness that once burned so brightly seems to vanish like mist in the heat of noon. Yes, let me speak to that part of you, not with rebuke, but with the soft balm of clarity. For the problem is not with your soul, which is ever united with spirit, but with the clouds of forgetfulness that pass before your inner sky, and though they seem to veil the sun, they cannot extinguish its light. Why do you not feel God? Not because God is far, but because your attention has wandered. Not because he has withdrawn, but because your gaze has lowered. Not because you are unworthy, but because you have forgotten what you already are, made of his light, carved of his silence, born from the womb of his eternal compassion. And what are these clouds? These veils that drift between your heart and the Holy One? They are not sins in the sense of punishment, they are simply distractions, misalignments of perception, like trying to hear a violin amid the roar of machines, like searching for moonlight with your eyes fixed on a blazing screen, like trying to touch the ocean while digging in dry sand. These obstacles are subtle but strong, the endless noise of thoughts that do not serve you, the heavy fog of busyness that numbs your inner perception, the old whisper of guilt that says you are too flawed to be loved by perfection, the quiet ache of unworthiness that creeps in when you compare your path to others and think, they are close to God, I am still so far. But all of these are illusions born of Maya, the cosmic hypnosis that has one purpose: to make you forget what cannot be lost, your eternal union with God. When you don't feel God, do not panic, do not run, do not say, I have failed, but instead pause wherever you are. Yes, even now, in the middle of this sentence, and say inwardly, even if only as a whisper from your tired heart, you are here. I have wandered, but you have not. You are here. And as you say this, do not wait for a feeling to prove it. Faith is not born of feeling, but of inner knowing. And even if no warmth arises, even if the silence feels dry, even if your prayer feels like a stone skipping over still water, still say it. You are here. For in that moment, you are not inviting God into your presence. You are inviting your presence back into God. This is the practice of holy return. Not dramatic, not emotional, not complicated, but quiet, constant, courageous. Each time you are distracted, return. Each time you forget, return. Each time the world swells loud, return. And with each return, the veil thins, The breath deepens, the heart softens, and suddenly, perhaps without warning, without effort, without fanfare, you feel it again. That subtle radiance in your chest, that vast stillness behind your gaze, that invisible embrace that seems to hold all of life in a single exhalation. And you remember, he was always here. He was never gone. It was only I who was looking away. So now, if your heart feels dry, say, even now I return. If your mind is racing, say, even now I return. If you feel ashamed or distant or confused, say with courage, even now I return. For this, beloved, is the secret. The return is the remembrance. The remembrance is the reconnection. And the reconnection is the revelation that you and God were never, ever apart. Let us now take this soul remembrance into a higher truth, into the full realization of your identity, not as a seeker stumbling toward God, but as one who already dwells in Him. Let us rise together. And now, O soul who longs to live with God as breath lives with wind and light lives with flame, let me speak gently to the part of you that wonders why, despite the prayers you've whispered, the breaths you've watched, the scriptures you've read, the silence you've kept, there are still moments, hours, even days when the presence of the divine feels distant, when your chest feels hollow and your thoughts run dry, and the warm feeling of God's nearness that once burned so brightly seems to vanish like mist in the heat of noon. Yes, let me speak to that part of you, not with rebuke, but with the soft balm of clarity. For the problem is not with your soul, which is ever united with spirit, but with the clouds of forgetfulness that pass before your inner sky, and though they seem to veil the sun, they cannot extinguish its light. Why do you not feel God? Not because God is far, but because your attention has wandered. Not because He has withdrawn, but because your gaze has lowered. Not because you are unworthy, but because you have forgotten what you already are made of. His light, carved of His silence, born from the womb of His eternal compassion. And what are these clouds? These veils that drift between your heart and the Holy One? They are not sins in the sense of punishment, they are simply distractions, misalignments of perception, like trying to hear a violin amid the roar of machines, like searching for moonlight with your eyes fixed on a blazing screen, like trying to touch the ocean while digging in dry sand. These obstacles are subtle but strong, the endless noise of thoughts that do not serve you, the heavy fog of busyness that numbs your inner perception, the old whisper of guilt that says you are too flawed to be loved by perfection. The quiet ache of unworthiness that creeps in when you compare your path to others and think, they are close to God, I am still so far. But all of these are illusions born of Maya, the cosmic hypnosis that has one purpose: to make you forget what cannot be lost, your eternal union with God. When you don't feel God, do not panic, do not run, do not say, I have failed, but instead pause wherever you are. Yes, even now, in the middle of this sentence, and say inwardly, even if only as a whisper from your tired heart, you are here. I have wandered, but you have not. You are here. And as you say this, do not wait for a feeling to prove it. Faith is not born of feeling, but of inner knowing. And even if no warmth arises, even if the silence feels dry, even if your prayer feels like a stone skipping over still water, still say it. You are here. For in that moment, you are not inviting God into your presence. You are inviting your presence back into God. This is the practice of holy return. Not dramatic, not emotional, not complicated, but quiet, constant, courageous. Each time you are distracted, return. Each time you forget, return. Each time the world swells, loud, return. And with each return, the veil thins, the breath deepens, the heart softens, and suddenly, perhaps without warning, without effort, without fanfare, you feel it again, that subtle radiance in your chest, that vast stillness behind your gaze, that invisible embrace that seems to hold all of life in a single exhalation. And you remember, He was always here, He was never gone. It was only I who was looking away. So now, if your heart feels dry, say, even now I return. If your mind is racing, say, even now I return. If you feel ashamed or distant or confused, say with courage, even now I return. For this, beloved, is the secret. The return is the remembrance. The remembrance is the reconnection. And the reconnection is the revelation that you and God were never, ever apart. Let us now take this soul remembrance into a higher truth, into the full realization of your identity, not as a seeker stumbling toward God, but as one who already dwells in Him. Let us rise together. And now, as this stream of remembrance flows into the ocean of your heart, let me pour upon you the blessing that has no words, and yet fills every syllable with light, the benediction that is not merely spoken but lived in silence, in stillness, in the way you now walk across the floor of your home with reverence, the way you breathe without urgency, the way you look upon the sky or a stranger, or your own reflection and whisper inwardly, "Thou art that." For if you have heard me truly, if you have let the sacred rhythm of this daily practice enter not just your ears but your soul, then you no longer need to search for God, for your very life has become His echo, your very gaze His mirror, your very silence His language. You will now begin to feel Him in the warmth of your breath as it returns to your body upon waking, in the flicker of awareness between each thought, in the invisible thread of peace that winds itself around your actions when you perform them in stillness, in the pulsing aliveness of the heart when you forgive, when you surrender, when you simply exist without clinging or grasping or needing life to entertain you. For when you are present, truly present, you will discover the great secret, that presence and God are one and the same, that God is not a being hidden behind the clouds, waiting to be pleased or summoned, but is the very beingness of your own being, the aliveness of your own life, the stillness at the center of all movement, the light that watches behind every seeing. From this day forward, live as one who knows not believes, not hopes, not tries, but knows that God is not sometimes near and sometimes absent, but always nearer than near, closer than the breath, deeper than the thought, more real than the body, more eternal than the mind. And if ever again you forget, if ever again the clouds of distraction return or the ache of separation presses upon your heart, simply stop, become still, and say with all the devotion of your soul, "You are here. I return. I remember." And in that remembering, all distances vanish. And in that return, all longing dissolves. And in that stillness, God is felt not as an idea, but as your very self. Now rise, beloved soul, not to escape the world, but to bless it, to carry this presence into your every word, into your every task, into your every breath, so that by your very being, others too may feel the divine, not because you speak of it, but because you have become it. Be the presence you seek. Be the silence through which God sings. Be the flame that never flickers. Be the one who walks with God not just in morning meditation, but in every sacred moment called now. Shanti. Shanti. Shanti Om.
My beloved, let us begin this holy journey not in haste, but in deep reverence, for we are not here to analyze the body as a machine or to treat the nervous system as some clinical construct. No, this temple you dwell in, this holy framework of breath and bone and shimmering light, is a sacred instrument fashioned by the Infinite Himself. Your nervous system is not broken, it is not flawed, it is simply overwhelmed with forgotten light, too much divine voltage tangled in the cords of egoic reaction, misused breath, and ceaseless outward attention. But beneath that restlessness, beneath that inner noise, there lives a blueprint of sacred stillness, a map back to God that was etched into your spine from the moment you were born. The spine is not merely bone and marrow, it is the altar of divine communion. The yogi sees what the eye cannot, that flowing within and around the spinal column are currents of subtle energy, rivers of divine intelligence waiting to ascend, to awaken, to return. In your spine, dear one, resides the secret stairway to the soul. And when the nervous system is healed, what truly happens is that the river is unblocked. The soul's current can finally rise like flame to the heavens. But the world has taught you to live outwardly. You have been trained to react, to hustle, to survive, to brace yourself against life. Each time you did so, the body remembered, the nerves tightened, the breath became shallow, the life force that once flowed like a quiet stream through your spine became like a chaotic storm, pulled downward into anxiety, scattered into fatigue, frozen by fear, and yet the instrument was never destroyed, only out of tune. Imagine a harp abandoned in a dusty hall, the strings stretched and neglected, the sound dissonant and fragile. Yet the harp is not broken, it waits, and Kriya Yoga, beloved, is the divine hand that tunes the strings once again. It is the breath of God returning to your breath. It is the current of peace that begins to rise, not from effort, but from alignment. When practiced with devotion and reverence, Kriya heals the nervous system not by force, but by remembrance. The breath is the bridge, the spine is the temple, the attention is the key, and Kriya is the sacred ritual of uniting these three. Through still breath, inner focus, and daily devotion, your nervous system ceases to be a battlefield and becomes once more an instrument of God realization. Come now, walk with me deeper. Let us understand not only what Kriya is, but why it works. For the soul does not heal through belief alone. It heals through the law of divine action. Beloved, now that you have heard the sacred summons, let us walk into the temple of divine law, not the laws of man, but the eternal laws that govern the dance between spirit and form. If your nervous system is a harp, then it does not retune itself by chance. It responds to law, the law of spiritual action. This law, given not by society but by God, declares that energy follows attention, that breath governs mind, and that mind commands the body. Therefore, if you can still the breath, you can still the mind. If you still the mind, the body follows. And when all three are quiet, the soul rises like a silent flame. This, dear one, is why Kriya Yoga works, not by magic, nor through superstition, but because it obeys this divine sequence. The soul is imprisoned not by outer circumstance, but by breath gone outward, attention scattered, and awareness chained to the senses. But when you reverse this current, when you begin to withdraw your energy from the outer world, when you focus it inward and lift it through the spine, you are not just calming yourself, you are returning to your original divine blueprint. When you inhale with awareness along the spine, you are doing more than drawing air. You are drawing back into yourself the very prana, the life force that was scattered by emotional reactivity, overthinking, and fear. When you exhale with reverence, you are not just breathing out carbon, you are releasing resistance, lowering the storm, returning to stillness. Each breath becomes a sacred current, each inward gaze a sanctified offering. Kriya is not physical exercise, it is divine alignment. Imagine a river once dammed by boulders. The water backs up, pressure builds, chaos erupts. This is your nervous system under the weight of untransmuted energy. But when the dam is dissolved, not explosively, but gently, the water flows again, smooth, silent, nourishing all in its path. This is the nervous system healed through Kriya, not by suppression of force, but by redirection of force, by obedience to inner law. I have said before, Kriya Yoga is the airplane path to God. Why? Because it bypasses the long, winding roads of mental analysis, of emotional fluctuation, and flies directly through the breath, through the spine, through the currents of inner light. It is not escape. It is transcendence through sacred science. Kriya does not ignore the body. It sanctifies it. It does not bypass emotion. It purifies it. And it does not suppress thought. It dissolves thought into pure awareness. You may ask, but how can something so inward change the state of my nerves, my body, my emotions? And I say to you, because the body is made of energy, and the energy is governed by consciousness. You are not here to be ruled by your nervous system. You are here to divinize it, to make it a channel of peace so refined that the soul can sing through it unhindered. Say now with me this vow of realization: my breath is my prayer, my spine is my sanctuary, my peace is God within me. Again slowly, so your very cells hear it. My breath is my prayer, my spine is my sanctuary, My peace is God within me. Now that you know the law, we must not only understand it, we must live it, for knowing without obedience leads to restlessness. Let us now walk into the third sacred gate, inner obedience training, where stillness becomes devotion and practice becomes transformation. Beloved, the path is not only known in thought, it must be walked in breath, felt in bone, practiced in the unseen hours when the world is asleep and the soul listens. Now that you understand the sacred laws, you must offer yourself to them not as a student of theory, but as a disciple of stillness. This is what I call inner obedience, not obedience to a person, nor to ritual for its own sake, but to the divine architecture of your own being. Obedience to stillness is not repression, it is reverence, and reverence heals. To heal your nervous system through Kriya is not to seek quick relief. It is to entrain your body to listen again to the quiet voice of spirit. You must learn to sit like the mountain, unmoved. You must train the breath to become like a thread of silk, unbroken, unhurried, unworried. The nerves, which for years have danced to the wild drumbeat of the senses, must now reorient to the quiet rhythm of the soul, and they do so only through devotion. This is not mechanical stillness. It is living stillness, born of love for the divine. When you sit for Kriya practice, you are not just meditating, you are entering the temple. Your spine becomes the altar, your breath becomes the incense, your awareness becomes the flame, and your silence is the offering. Do not treat this as exercise, treat it as Holy Communion. Obedience to divine stillness means you return each day, not to get results, but to worship through breath. In doing so, the nervous system begins to trust again. It begins to soften. It begins to remember what it was created for, to carry the current of God. In this training, discipline is not harsh. It is sacred rhythm. The same way a musician must tune her instrument daily, you must tune your awareness, your posture, your breath. Sit upright, eyes lifted, tongue quiet, spine still. The world may scream outside, but within, a greater voice is whispering, "Be still, and know that I am God." This is not poetic, it is electrical. For each time you become still in breath and posture, the life force ceases to flow outward and begins to return home, to the spine, to the brain, to the soul. Stillness is the highest obedience. It is the obedience of surrender. It is the act of saying, I no longer chase the world, I now receive the divine. And this reception, this silence pregnant with spirit, heals more than 1,000 anxious thoughts. It untangles years of fear with a single breath of remembrance. It is not easy, but it is simple, and the soul rejoices each time you choose it. Say now, with devotion rising in your heart, I obey the breath of God, I surrender to the stillness within. Again, as a sacred vow, I obey the breath of God, I surrender to the stillness within. And now, with this obedience cultivated, the inner soil is ready to receive the seed of divine identity. Let us remember the truth not just of what you must do, but of what you already are. Come with me now into the fourth gate, the divine blueprint affirmation. Beloved, come now into the chamber of holy remembrance. You have practiced stillness, obeyed the breath, and surrendered the reactive habits of your outer life. Now let us go deeper, not forward but inward, to the most sacred realization of all. You were designed for peace, not for stress, not for panic, not for a life lived entirely in reaction. Your nervous system, so often misunderstood, was created by the divine not as a prison, but as a pathway, not as a battleground, but as a bridge from body to spirit, from earth to heaven, from illusion to God. You are not meant to be a creature of tension. Tension is the result of forgetfulness. When the mind clings to the external, when the breath becomes shallow, when the senses scatter the attention, then the body begins to strain beneath the burden of disconnection. But peace is not something foreign you must acquire. It is the very origin of your being. It was in you when you took your first breath. It whispered through you before you spoke your first word. Peace is the signature of the soul, and your nervous system was sculpted by divine intelligence to carry it. You see, when the currents of prana rise unobstructed through the spine, they awaken the higher centers of perception. They draw the consciousness upward, away from the storms of emotion, and into the light of intuitive knowing. The saints and sages were not absent-minded wanderers. They were physiologically aligned with truth. Their nervous systems were not shut down. They were silent and luminous, finely tuned to divine vibration. This is not mysticism alone. It is your original design. Let me tell you now, from the heart of God that breathes within me, you were not made for anxiety. You were made for absorption in the infinite. You were not made to tremble at the pace of the world. You were made to move in rhythm with eternity. Every cell of your body remembers this truth. It is your thoughts that have forgotten. And so now we speak, not to the intellect, but to the very architecture of your being. Say with me, not to affirm a wish, but to declare a return. Peace is not foreign to me, it is my origin. Again, let it enter your spine, your skin, your soul. Peace is not foreign to me, it is my origin. I was not made to carry tension, I was made to carry light. I was not made to fight for safety, I was born from stillness itself. Let these words not end with this video. Let them become breath, let them become posture, let them become the vibration you carry into the world. For once you know your divine blueprint, no voice of fear can claim authority, no story of pain can dictate your future. You begin to live not as a servant of the senses, but as a master of silence. And that silence is not passive, it is pregnant with power. Now that the blueprint has been remembered, we must live it, not as performance, but as sacred ritual. Let me now guide you through the devotional rhythms that heal the nervous system day by day. Come with me into the daily spiritual rituals of Kriya. Beloved, now that you have remembered your divine origin, now that you feel again the truth vibrating in your spine, that you were made for light, not for fear, it is time to walk that truth into every breath, into each sacred day. These are not mere habits. These are not routines to check off like worldly duties. These are daily spiritual rituals, gentle yet powerful flames placed before the altar of your nervous system. They restore rhythm where there has been rupture. They invite harmony where tension once ruled. And they do not require force. They require love. Let us begin in the morning, in that silent space before the world awakes. The first moment your eyes open, do not reach for the outer world. Reach inward. Sit up, spine straight, without saying a word. Let your palms rest gently on your thighs. Close your eyes and lift them, not in strain, but in gentle gaze, toward the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows. Now inhale, not to fill the lungs, but to call back the soul. Feel the breath rise along the spine. Exhale, and feel the tension dissolve. Do this for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, before speaking, before moving, before becoming anyone in the eyes of the world. Become who you are in the eyes of God. Let the breath say, I am here, I am still, I am the soul. This simple act reprograms your entire being. It tells the nervous system, we begin not in fear, not in effort, but in peace. It sets the tone. It opens the gate. It says to the subconscious, today I walk in alignment. This is not a ritual of ambition. It is a ritual of return. Midday, when the pulse of the world grows louder, when the tensions of time and task begin to encroach, pause. Close your eyes for 1 minute, just one. Place your right hand on your heart or your spine and whisper inwardly, I am breath, I am calm, I am light. Then bring your awareness back to the spine. Feel the energy lift from the base toward the crown. This is not fantasy. It is subtle physiology. You are redirecting the flow, calling the scattered prana home. This practice, when done consistently, becomes a shield. You begin to notice that the nervous system no longer reacts. It responds, not from fear, but from spirit. In the evening, before bed, create a final sanctuary. Light a candle if you wish. Sit again in stillness. Perform a few gentle spinal breaths. Feel all the tensions of the day draining into the ground, like spent currents released into the soil. Let the breath rise now, not just to calm, but to worship. Say inwardly, all energy returns to God, and feel yourself dissolve, not into sleep, but into sacred surrender. Kriya Yoga does not belong to a single part of the day. It becomes the breath of your life. Through these rituals, the nervous system becomes a channel of devotion, no longer strained by outward demands, but nourished by inward constancy. The spine becomes the pillar of stillness, and the mind becomes a servant of divine rhythm. This is not discipline as pressure. This is discipline as adoration. Say now with me, as we seal these instructions in holy remembrance. Each breath is a prayer. Each day is a temple. I walk as the soul. Again with reverence, each breath is a prayer. Each day is a temple. I walk as the soul. And now, beloved, let us close this journey, not with an ending, but with a holy seal. Let us speak the final decree. Let it not just enter your mind, but radiate from your aura, your gaze, your presence. Come now into the final breath. I am peace made flesh. Beloved soul, having walked with me through the sanctuary of breath, having honored your spine as the altar of light, having obeyed the rhythm of divine stillness and remembered your holy design, you are now ready to seal this journey not as a lesson, but as a vow. This is the final decree, not born of hope, but of remembrance. You are not becoming peace. You are not chasing peace. You are peace made visible. You are peace made flesh. This world may call you by many names. It may measure your worth by noise, speed, and achievement. It may tempt you to react, to rush, to doubt the stillness within. But now you know. You have seen. You have tasted the truth that lives within every cell, every breath, every sacred pulse of your being. And that truth is not tension. It is tranquility, sanctified by spirit. Speak with me now, not as a repetition, but as a radiant decree of identity. Let your voice be calm. Let your awareness rise. Let your soul affirm what God has always whispered. I am not tension. I am light. I do not chase peace. I return to it. I am peace made flesh. Again, breathe and speak, not from the mind, but from the core of your spine. Let the breath carry the truth. I am not tension. I am light. I do not chase peace. I return to it. I am peace made flesh. You are not the broken rhythm of a distracted world. You are the sacred cadence of eternity. You are not the noise. You are the silence beneath it. You are not the tremble. You are the light that witnesses the trembling and remains unmoved. And now, beloved, let this truth move through your day. Let it shape your posture, your tone, your gaze. Let others feel it before you speak. Let your very presence become the affirmation. And as you go, begin small, 5 minutes each morning. Sit with the spine upright. Let the breath rise. Let the noise fall. And say inwardly, I breathe God into my spine. Do this before the world speaks to you. Do this before the old thoughts return. Do this not to fix anything, but to return to everything you already are. If this truth has awakened something in you, if even one breath was restored, I invite you now to leave your vow in the silence of the world below. Write it not for me, but for your own soul's anchoring. Comment, I breathe God into my spine. And let that be the doorway you step through tomorrow morning and every morning after, until the breath is no longer separate from prayer, until the nervous system no longer vibrates with fear, until you live not as the seeker of peace, but as peace incarnate. You are light, you are breath, you are peace made flesh.